going on,
All
man?
right. We are live. Well, recording. And
Yeah.
Tom will hack it up later to make it an actual listenable show. Um, but we started talking. We had to stop talking and hit record because we were having what I think is a good conversation. Um, obviously during COVID, with all the lockdowns and shutdowns and everything, everybody was working from home and doing what we're doing right now, which we're using Google Meet
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
record our podcast, and we're video conferencing so that we can see each other. We know, like, hey, Tom's like making faces. He has something to say. I need to shut my fucking mouth. Like it's so much easier to do that than try to record just audio only. So we do video. It's easier to see. It's easier to get context clues. It's just overall better. But we were talking about how it's so I don't understand. Now I'm also someone who I was an essential worker during COVID, and they were batting around whether or not I was going to end up having to do my job from home. And I was telling Tom there was no way in hell I would want to do my job from home. And I don't understand the people who do want to do their jobs from home. Um, I mean, I guess it works like if you were like people are still fighting for it. They still want to do it. They don't want to go back. And I guess I get it from a certain angle, but also, like if you want to live in Philly, like my little brother. My little brother's moving to Philly to get out of Florida for reasons, and but he still wants to work for his company, and they're allowing him to do teleconferencing to do his job. It's great for him because of his situation, but by and large, all these other people that are like so many people just want to be like, I just want to work from home. I can't do that. I can't. I need to have that separation.
Yeah. No doubt. There's like a large contingent of let's say large. Maybe that's a wrong adjective. There's a contingent of people who want to. There's a contingent of people who are able to, because the companies have basically sold offices. They've done whatever, and look, that's economically that they may have they discovered something very feasible. Hey, we don't have to have this anymore. Whatever. I mean, that's just part of it, right? But at the same point, too, though, if you have the ability to go back, unless it's for like another reason, like medical or whatever, like, yeah, I don't understand it either. Like, do it. I mean, there's so much with the camaraderie and the just something that speaks to saying like, look, I don't know that I could do that every day. Now me, I was kind of in the same boat you were. Funny thing was, during all that, I actually had to have signed paperwork that said I could cross state lines.
Oh, no
Uh,
kidding.
yeah, for that reason. So it wasn't very long. It was like in maybe a 4 to 6 week span that I had to carry that. But I had to show up every day, and I never stopped. So
Right.
um, so I don't know any different. I really don't.
Right. And that's the thing, like, and maybe it's a character flaw or some kind of issue that's a me thing, but like I'm terrible at doing online classes. I'm terrible at doing things that require me to sit at my computer and do them independently. Like if I'm in a work situation, I can sit there and do my work and not, it's not an issue. But I find it hard to sit, or at least I found it hard to do classwork when I didn't have to be in the classroom. And I just figured that it would be much the same with work. Like maybe if I had a data entry job and I knew like, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I've only got to do that, then maybe working from home, whatever, that's
Right.
fine. It but it would also depend upon the flexibility of the schedule and all that stuff too, because you and I both know it that inevitably sitting at home, something's going to come up
Right.
because it's not the same. At work, you can separate, you can delineate, you can be like, no, listen, this is my work time. I'm not there. I can't do anything about it. I have to be here. And my mind has to be here and my focus has to be here. But at home, there's so many different distractions. There's so many different things going on. The dog needs to go out, the dog needs to eat. this happened, that happened, people ringing the doorbell, people cutting their lawns, people doing construction, whatever.
Right, right.
And when you're at work, that's what you are. You're at work. And so it's a singular focus. Now, I'm not saying that, when we're all at work, we're all just drones and just, punching boxes and whatever. Like we're still human, and there's still going to be other factors that from the outside that kind of come in, and intrusive thoughts and whatnot. But I feel like it's easier to function on a work level when you're at work.
Right, right. Yeah. The focus level is more there. Whereas, yeah, when you're at home, it's like you're all over the, hey, look, when we record this, there's been many a times when we've had to go, it's like, oh, real life happens.
Right.
Dog needs to go out. Someone has a cold, so they're coughing a lot. So we have to go back and like, I have to edit that. And I try to my best. Obviously, I don't do it all the time, but you do have a lot of this different things going on that basically take your focus out of it.
Right.
Because if you're honestly your focus is out of it, your head's not there, so you're not performing. Your productivity goes down, regardless of what you do.
Right.
And if you're that ill, you wouldn't really go to the office anyway. So why are you?
Right.
So
and that's the other thing. I feel like, and maybe this is just I don't even know what to call this, but maybe this is me looking into things, maybe looking through a skeptical mirror. But I feel like this is also the companies then intruding on your home and then making it so like, look, when I was in the Air Force, even, when I was all through high school and to college, and then even when I was in the Air Force, we had snow days because it was, it was too shitty on the roads to go to the base or to go to school or do whatever. So sweet, it's a snow day.
Right.
That was awesome. That was a nice little reprieve from the monotony of the, of the way things went. But now with all this remote work shit, no, sorry, you guys just get to log into your remote terminal and just do your work. Man, it's snowing outside. My ass is gonna be outside sledding.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that. So we've made no bones about it here. I work for a school system, and we've talked about that many times over. Where what would be the easiest course of action? Would it be snow day and what you want to do as a kid on a snow day and all that, or let's do this remote stuff. Look, we've hit the last couple of years where we're like, you know what, let's just do snow days. Let's have it, because it's more of the reprieve, it's more of a break type thing,
right.
Because you kind of have to go with like what you feel is needed in that regard. But then also obviously there's like a level of preparation that happens beforehand, whatever, and all that. We can get into the discussion on that. But it's also in the same point too. It's like you're a human being. You can't just force. The same thing that a lot of people did not like, for
Right. And that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh man, I need a work-life balance. Well, motherfucker, if you're working from home, where's that work-life balance? How's that working out for you? Because I don't see it. I see you're at home and you're still doing work. There's no balance.
Yeah.
Because then your boss could be like, hey, I know you're at home and but I need you to do this. And no.
Yeah, you could find that spell where, and I say the productivity thing, and I'm just making numbers up here, but you could be working like a typical 8-hour day at the office or wherever you're at and putting in like a decent amount of productivity there. Whereas if you're doing a similar time, to put those productive 8 hours in at home due to distractions, whatever, you may be looking at 12, 14. So that time becomes longer and expanded out. Right. Look, I'm not saying that like, yeah, you can take your breaks, walk your dog, you do whatever you want, but you're also going over a longer, to me anyway.
Right.
I guess it's all depends on what you do, and I don't know, but it's interesting nonetheless. Like I've always been, because I didn't know any different. I had to be around the people that I work with. I work in a small office, so at some point or another, it was like, hey, we're doing this, whatever. We never shut down. But at the same point, like I just don't know that I could do that day in, day out, for 3 years now. Think about that. That's not the only thing. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I know we always talk, oh yeah, you remember when we did this 20 years ago? And you think, oh, time's going really fast. But when you do something every single day for 3 years, oof, man, I don't know.
Right. I mean, and to your point with the productivity and everything, I think if you look at the long term effects of what happened, and we'll call it the COVID generation.
Hmm.
So the kids that were going to school during COVID and ended up having to do homeschooling for how long, like virtual school, how they end up faring in the future versus kids who were before or after, where they did everything just in school. I think you're going to see a marked difference, and
Yeah.
it's not the kids' fault.
No, and I think there's a, it's funny you say that. There's a thing I always think about because when did you get your first cell phone?
So what it was 2001.
So you were out of high school.
Yeah. Oh, I was out of high school for 2 years,
Yes,
3 years.
I got my first one. I was out of high school as well. So I always look at this. We are part of the last generation that did not have a mobile phone. Now, granted, even back then, the mobile phones really weren't what they are now. Obviously,
Right.
you weren't able to access the world knowledge at your fingertips. They were playing Snake and sending text messages and maybe having cool ringtones.
Yeah.
but you still didn't have that the communication aspect of it. You were still having to run somewhere to make a call when you were in high school. Would type
Right.
those types of things. I always thought that like our age level anyway, in a small group anyway, we were the last ones to really understand that the stuff that we have at our fingertips. Oh, we love it. Don't get me wrong, but we also understood how life worked before that, and that marked difference that you're talking about now. I think you're going to see a similar thing. And I think that's why we get clustered in sometimes with millennials and whatever. And I just think that's wrong, honestly, because we understand it on a different level.
Well, what I've seen is, and it's funny. We were just me and Stephanie were just trying to explain the different generations to Peyton today, and what I had seen it called is Xennials, and it's the very tail end of Generation X and the very start of Millennial. And
Hmm.
I think that fits perfectly because we were the last ones to really have that internetless analog experience, and we witnessed the transition into the digital age.
Right.
And it is night and day. I still remember, and I'm sure you do too, going up, there was no TV remote. It was, hey, go turn the knob.
Yeah. Actually,
And
the
it was
first TV I ever had in my room, and I remember this, it was a Lloyd's 13-inch. And you could take, and I had little knobs that I could like open the box on, and you could tune each channel that I
yeah.
had. Yeah.
Yeah, I had I don't know what brand. I think it was fuck, I don't remember what brand it was, but I remember having it forever. But it was a big tube TV. It was at one point the living room TV until a we got one of the big projection TVs.
Hmm.
That was all that was totally the shit. But this one had the 3610. It had the wood grain on it, which is how you knew it was classy. And then when I wanted cable, my initial cable box was the flippy one with all the little buttons on it and
Oh gosh,
the
yeah,
little switch that you could go between the three different rows, and
yeah.
that's
It's like
how
the
you
brown, like fake wood, like
right. And what you would do is if you were really tricky, if you wanted to watch a pay-per-view channel like a WrestleMania or whatever, you could kind of rig it so that it was in between, the switch was in between, and you could like pop two or three of the buttons at the same time, and you could kind of get a squiggly picture. And sometimes it would either be wrestling or you would think it was wrestling, and then you'd see a boob, and then you'd be like, oh, that's not wrestling. That's something completely different.
old school hacking. That's what I remember. I recall stories of. Um, I won't out anybody on this one, but and this is crazy. Think about this: of people climbing phone poles because that's where the cable lines ran,
Yeah.
and they figured out where like the certain junctions were, and they were able to like hack into it, which is insane to me. So they could get the pay-per-views and the boxing matches and the stuff because it's like, oh yeah, just think about this. Like back then, it was still like $50, $60 for like a Tyson fight.
Yeah.
or 40, $50 for a WrestleMania or something, and it was just, and it's like, of course, look, I don't really want to pay that now. I'm okay with the $5 a month that I pay to Peacock for,
Right.
and because it's equivalent of like one pay-per-view of money that's like worth basically 2 or 3 times as much now.
Right.
Or,
Well, and
but
that's
you know what I
why
mean.
I haven't gotten any of the AEW pay-per-views. I love AEW and I would love to support them in every single thing they do, but dude, I don't have $50 to drop on a pay-per-view randomly, you know? Like,
Yeah, no, I don't either. And I'm the same way. Like I don't sit there and like, oh yeah, it's would be great too. But I struggle sometimes because obviously I'm a big Phillies fan, right? But then I pay for the single plan on that, and we've talked about this before through our pods. It's I'm paying like over $100 a year for basically 3/4 of the season because
right.
of blackouts. And so then the NFL Sunday ticket comes up. I have a YouTube TV, and it's like, well, do you want to pay another $300 or whatever it is? And it's like, look, I love the Eagles, but it's like at some point I can't stomach paying all this money for stuff, especially the Eagles right now. Like I think there's automatically 5 or 6 national telecast games. So then I'm into it for $200 or $300 or whatever it is for like 10 games,
Right.
because it's like, I can't do that. And so the same thing goes with all these pay-per-views. Like I'm so glad the WWE did what they did with the network, and then obviously eventually transitioning over to Peacock for the US audience. Because it's like, look, I can stomach watching ads and paying $5 a month. No problem. That's fine. That's a great, to me, like, look, that's a great, way to approach it to make money, because now you're basically able to have millions of subscribers at that rate.
Right.
AEW hope maybe get something like that. I know the Ring of Honor thing, I guess they still have the
Honor
Honor
Club.
Club. Yeah. Maybe they'll do something like that. But yeah, no, I can't do the 40, 50, $60 a month things for even something I like. Just can't do
Yeah.
it.
And that's the thing, like I'm going to go through, and with the NFL Sunday ticket dropping and where I can actually get it, I will be dropping probably Netflix. I will be dropping probably I might hold on to Paramount Plus, but I think HBO Max is going to be gone. Um, I don't know. I'm going to have to really look through. I'll definitely keep the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN package because you get all the hockey games like that, and then plus you get Disney Plus and Hulu, which are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll keep my YouTube Premium. But aside from that, I really any of the other like streaming services are fair game to
Yeah,
be
no,
cut at this point.
you said a good point too. They do have a great package there. The Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu. That's a great combo. I actually still get that through Verizon, which is nice.
Nice.
Um, the It's one of the few like perks that's still left. So that's a nice one, and it's actually even a good deal, even if you don't get that, because it's still reasonable, and there's a lot of good content on
Oh
all
yeah.
three. Um, the only thing in Peacock that kind of, even with the price point, and we'll get there. I'm really looking forward to Twisted Metal. Uh,
Yes.
we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I don't know about you. Like, what content have you found other than WWE that you really draw yourself to on Peacock, other than like the classic content?
Yeah, dude, it's classic content, and I'm trying to remember what I feel like there was some show on there that was. See, now I'm gonna have to look this up because I know there was something that I watched on there. Um, it's not. You're right. It's not a big thing for me. Um, I get much more. I'll tell you what I got much more out of than I thought I would is what the fuck is it called? Paramount Plus. I got so much out of Paramount Plus, but like I'm just looking real quick to see just because I really can't remember anything off the top of my head for Peacock.
It was more. I know it was not kind of an off the cuff thing that we certainly didn't prep for, but I thought I'd get the same answer or you provide me the same answer that I have. I really get nothing. We don't
Yeah.
watch it for anything other than I occasionally will flick on wrestling, but
Well, they did get,
and
I feel like
SNL like stuff, but
so I feel like there's going to be there's some football games that are either going to be on Peacock, or maybe I'm thinking of Paramount Plus because they have CBS. So that might actually be what I'm thinking about.
yeah, because I was going to say they haven't had what NBC has really done NFL content in a long time.
Yeah, so I think I'm thinking of Paramount Plus.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it's so cheap still is really because you're ad supported, obviously, but um, your main draw is the WWE. I mean, to me, I really don't know. The one thing I never can get away from is Netflix. That's the hard one. There's always something there. That's a tough one. Whatever they charge for it is a shame too, because it's always like one thing away from like, I don't know.
Yeah, I just so with Netflix, I can count let's see. Netflix right now, the only shows that they still have that I like are they have some comedy stuff that I really enjoy. Big Mouth, Wednesday, Wednesday, pronounce it correctly. For non hoagie mouth listeners. Um, and that's all I can think of is those three things. Like hell, even Amazon Prime. If I think about Amazon Prime, I don't use it as much as I used to ship stuff. But if I think of the stuff that I actually watch on there, there's more on there
Yeah.
because there's The Boys, there's Invincible, Doctor Who, Good Omens. So that's already four, and I'm not even really pushing too hard. And then they're going to have NFL games with the Thursday night games. So there's a reason for me to keep Amazon Prime. But I
Yeah.
really, aside from the WWE stuff, which aside from the big four pay-per-views, I couldn't tell you the last time I watched any of it.
No,
On Peacock.
And quite honestly, like the last like major one I watched was the Rumble. But okay, but leading on Peacock though, you sent me the video today earlier, and I told you that I'd only watched the trailer, which was released a month or so ago, and it's something I'm so excited about is the Twisted Metal series coming to Peacock. So this may be the make or break for me on. Well, I say make or break. I'll keep it because of wrestling stuff, but
I'll keep it because of wrestling in the office.
Yeah. But my goodness, like, dude, what a clip! I mean, and you tell me they're catering to our age? Come on.
and it's so fucked up because it made me think of an album that I haven't listened to. Now I wore it out when I had it, but I haven't listened to Unleash the Dragon in so fucking long. Aside from the thong songs, you hear it everywhere. But I wore that album out.
Man, and that the 2-minute clip in that, how good are Will Arnett playing Sweet Tooth's voice? I believe is it still Samoa Joe doing the body?
Joe's his body.
And then you've got Anthony Mackie just killing it as John Doe, who's his character in the Twisted Metal series. And man, that clip just hype me up. That's so good.
Machete.
Yeah, and like, look, I know Twisted Metal is a funny thing. A lot of people have it in their head that like it can be a real serious thing, and I think a lot of it derives back to arguably the most popular is Twisted Metal Black because it's very dark. It's very, I mean, it really is. It's just the very darkest entry of it, and it's not very funny throughout it. But if you follow along in any of the Twisted Metal stuff, the main character drives an ice cream truck. So of course it's funny. It's supposed to be.
There's a fucking dude called Axel that is just a dude strapped to two giant fucking wheels.
Exactly. Or Mr. Slam. The guy. I mean, come on. Like it's just goofiness. So if like you pick up on it, the comedic aspect is there, and it's such a great way to approach that show because I don't know that you can get away with something that's not funny in that guard now. I think if you took away the comedy, you get very I don't know. Like I don't know that it just flies
Right.
at all. But that clip that was the release recently was awesome. It's so
Yeah.
good, and they have a great tribute to Unleash the Dragon. Thank you,
Yes.
Cisco.
The silver-haired god.
It was so good. I said it to Danielle because I was like, the kids were still up, and I was like, you have to watch this. I was like, you will appreciate this. And like 30 seconds, she was just dying laughing.
Dude,
And
I saw it and I'm like, I really hope Tom has seen this. And when you said you hadn't, I was like, all right, boom. Because it ticks all the boxes. It really does.
yeah,
It's I mean, we'll see how this actual series plays out and how they stretch it out into, I don't know how many episodes. Um, but God, it looks so good. I really hope it doesn't disappoint.
no, I hope so. I hope so either. It looks like it's 10 episodes on season one. I honestly don't see this going past maybe 2 or 3 seasons, regardless. Only because like you're dealing with a limited cast of characters. I know that Nev Campbell shows up in an episode, which is cool.
I like that.
She plays Raven, which is the character that drives the hearse in Twist Metal Black.
Okay.
So she's Shadow, would be that. There's just some different things there. I think there's another game that Shadow shows up in, one of the ones that I've never played.
Was it the PS3 kind of remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it?
No, there's like a Twisted Metal, like, let me look this up real quick. Twisted Metal Lost or something like that. Is it Head On? No, there's a Twisted Metal Lost that is it's in Head On. I think she shows up in that.
Okay. So we've
Yeah,
got
Raven. Yeah.
Thomas Hayden Church is in it.
Yeah, you got some really cool characters.
And Stephanie Beatrice, she's awesome. Nev Campbell. I don't know who Mike Mitchell is. I don't know who Richard Cabral is.
Yeah, there's a lot of like random people, but there's Mr. Slam shows up as a character.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so you got some really cool ones, man. Like I was looking this up earlier. Obviously, Sweet Tooth, who we've talked about. You do have the Nev Campbell playing Raven, who's Shadow. Dollface shows up, like that part of it. You do have some. They pay some kind of homage to the. I see some Holy Man characters, so it would be. Oh gosh, who would that be in Twist Metal Black? The preacher that throws the.
Yeah.
Preacher drives the. Oh, what the heck is Preacher driving that? I'm losing my mind. Oh, Brimstone.
Yes.
Yeah,
I guess
I have to look some of these things up because I forget. And it's funny because I play Twist Metal Black like I have like every couple months for like the last 20 years, and I still.
So I guess Spectre will be is who Thomas Hayden Church will be driving, right?
Nice.
I would assume. I could be wrong, but he's kind of like a super
Agent Stone.
special agent. So
yeah, it's got to be right. Let's see, Agent Stone.
Oh no! I'm dumb. What am I thinking of? So it says
Roadkill.
Scott Campbell.
Crimson Fury. Oh,
he's driving Crimson Fury.
Well, no. I don't know. Agent Stone has shown up in could be Outlaw.
Oh,
Agent Stone. Okay, so I just looked this up real quick. Agent Stone was one of the original drivers in the first Twisted Metal. Which, think about this: the first Twisted Metal came out almost 30 years ago. By the way, Crimson Fury, and then you have Outlaw. He shows back up in Twisted Metal Black, driving a different car. This time he's Outlaw.
Okay.
But his first appearance though was he's one of the original drivers, and he was Crimson Fury. So
nice.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
So who knows?
Well, I love Thomas Hayden Church, so like he's one of my dudes. I'm glad he's in it because that gives me even more of a favorable view of this show.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, man. Like I said, I still have Twisted Metal Black installed on my PS5 to this day. I've tried to go back over time and play. Like my other favorite was Twisted Metal 2.
Mhm.
Obviously I will never, and I really, really enjoyed the reboot on Twisted Metal for
For
PS3,
PS3.
but that which was the last game that was released. I
Yeah.
had so much fun because that was a game I actually got onto online, and I was like half decent at. Like I wasn't getting killed by 8-year-olds playing Call of Duty. I actually was because it was a game I knew how to play.
Right.
I've been playing it for years at that point, and then of course it just goes nowhere, and they haven't done anything with it.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of hoping for. Look, come on, PlayStation, like give us even the latest game. Just throw it on the store. Let us download it. I will pay you money.
Yeah.
Like Sony, listen to me. I will give you money so I don't have to crack open my PS3 to play that game.
Look, I don't give a shit if we get, and I know this isn't Sony, but I don't give a shit if we get Twisted Metal or if we end up getting Vigilante 8.
Oh,
But give me one of them.
Vigilante 8. Wow, what a great game.
And the second one actually did get a remaster not too long ago. I think it was the 360 and PS3 era. And I have that on my 360 still.
It's funny though. You say that, and I kind of feel like you have Twisted Metal coming out as a TV show on Peacock, right? You say Vigilante 8. I kind of feel like that could be a TV show releasing on the CW.
You know what? You're not wrong. Although I do feel like, look, I mean, we can bag on it because it did have its moments where I was like, "What the fuck is this?" But it had some cool additions.
I know. I don't mean to dog on it that badly, but
No, the worst. I think the worst Twisted Metal type game I ever played was called Rogue Trip, and it was on the PS1. And I don't like hating on it because the Boss Tones did a lot of the soundtrack for it, or they not that they did the soundtrack, but they used Boss Tones songs, and like you could actually put the like remember back when PS1 was a thing, you could put the CDs in your CD player and actually play the music. So so on and I'm going to get into a little bit of a deep cut here with the Boss Tones, but so they used to do every year. It was called the Hometown Throwdown, and they do it between Christmas and New Year's every year at the Middle East in Boston. And they would have like Dropkick and whoever else, like local bands come and play.
Mhm.
Well, when they did their Live from the Middle East live album, there's a part where they're playing the song Dr. D, but before they play it, they have two different versions. They have the old version, which is off which is off the studio albums, and they have a new version that they play live. Well, they ask the crowd, all right, do you want the old version or do you want the new version? And the old version ended up on Live from the Middle East. The new version ended up in Rogue Trip.
Of course.
Because they recorded them both, but the new version wasn't good enough for the live album, and it ended up in Rogue Trip. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it's more of like a swing version than a ska version.
It's funny. I'm looking up the game now. Wow, that's crazy. It was GTA Interactive game.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Which it honestly wasn't that bad, but it wasn't Twisted Metal and it wasn't Vigilante 8.
Right. That's the thing. When you start, copy, trying to copy what other people have done, you kind of realize you're making bastardized versions of it. Look at Mutant League Football.
Right.
You had other versions. Now, even the fact that they were before or after, kind of, you still realize that like Mutant League Football like hit every nail on the head, and then you had like Blood Bowl.
Which Blood Bowl, to be fair, Blood Bowl is actually a tabletop game.
Yeah, right. So it predated it.
It's in Warhammer.
Right.
So Warhammer, they actually the have you played any of the? I thought you were saying Blood Bowl was bad.
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that like the fact that it predates some of the stuff sometimes that comes off as second rate. That's why I make the joke about Vigilante being on CW network.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not quite that second rate. The problem is it can predate sometimes. It's a matter of hitting it at the right time and on all cylinders.
Right.
And then you get some level of copying too whenever people do that. Sometimes they do it right and sometimes they do it wrong. And obviously, Mutant League football did it completely correctly.
Right.
And I'm not saying Vigilante 8 did it wrong for Twisted Metal, but that's kind of where I was going with the Blood Bowl thing, though. It's like, what do people remember if they think that, combat football thing? No one ever thinks about Blood Bowl.
No, they think about Jerry, what was it? Jerry Glanville's Combat Football.
That's right. Everyone thinks about that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just a funny way of how that all works out. It's, sometimes it's, I don't know, sometimes it's a matter of what, I guess you hit the right cylinders at the right time.
By the way, that's an actual game, right?
It doesn't surprise me. It's like Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball.
I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's Pigskin Footbrawl. And it was an arcade game, and then it came out. It actually came out on the Genesis after that, and I can tell you, I played a shit ton of it in the arcade because we went to West Virginia, and it was like one of the only games in the arcade at the hotel we were staying at, and so I played it for hours, and it was fucking terrible. But it was like the only game they had, so I played the shit out of it. But yeah, picture Mutant League, but Tecmo orientation and bigger, more detailed, but still somehow shittier characters, and like about a tenth as fun, but there was blood.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was 16-bit. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's why, I make the comment about Mutant League compared it to Blood Bowl in that regard. It's like you obviously have several years worth of experience on the Blood Bowl side, but when you think about it historically and remembering fondly, like I'm picking up a copy of Mutant League every time for a video game. I'm not necessarily thinking I'm going to go play. Obviously, I'm not. I've never played the tabletop Blood Bowl, but I'm certainly not going to play the video game.
I'll tell you what, though, the video game's good. The video game's really good. I've played Blood Bowl. I own Blood Bowl 1 and 2 for the Xbox, and I'm planning on getting 3 for the PlayStation 5, which is out already. But it's hard to learn. Like, it's a very steep learning curve. But once you learn it, it's actually really fun. And even the learning curve, even getting your ass kicked, it's still kind of fun because it's challenging. And I've enjoyed all the time that I've spent playing it. It's not like you're not getting your action, like you're not getting, like Madden or Tecmo Bowl or anything like that. It's not fast moving at all. But if you enjoy strategy games, it's actually really fun.
Oh, that makes sense then, from a port to a tabletop then to a video game. That makes sense.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Like I definitely have enjoyed all the iterations I've played of it. I haven't played the 3 yet, but I'm sure they're just improving on how it's played.
Right. So yeah. So let's kind of circle back though. You had mentioned the Boss Tones. I had a very interesting conversation through text earlier, and I thought this would be kind of fun to kind of get into, and it'd be fun to kind of wrap it up because it was like very, reminiscing and things about what got us into different genres of music and whatnot. And you had kind of alluded to what got you into ska and all that, early on. I did the same thing. So talk me through real quick, like what in that punk ska, whatever, like what was your gateway into getting into that genre of music that I know that obviously you've stayed in tune with for a long time, and I have too, or otherwise we wouldn't have a logo that looks like a Boston's logo.
Right, right. So like I can remember succinctly, Y100 and WDRE in Philly, playing Green Day, playing Rancid, playing the Boss Tones, playing Blink 182. And Rancid, oh, and Goldfinger and Real Big Real Big Fish as well.
Hmm.
I'd be remiss if I left any of them out. So I started taping some stuff off the radio. So Green Day, obviously Basket Case, stuff like that. Rancid, Time Bomb, and Ruby Soho, um, Goldfinger here in your bedroom, Real Big Fish, Sell Out, um, and all these bands, the Boss Tones with the impression that I get, and then Blink 182 with Damn It. And when Damn It came out, it was just something that I don't know if it was just the right, like you said, with the football games and with video games in general. I don't know if it was the right time or what it was, but I went out and I bought Dude Ranch because that was the album that that Damn It was off of, and it kind of sparked a fire in me that made me start. I was like, wow, it really opened my eyes. And then that's when I started getting more into bands like Rancid and more into Green Day, more into the Boston, the Boston's were their whole separate thing. That came a little bit later, and that was again mind blowing and completely, mind altering. But that opened my eyes. It kind of, because I was kind of in the, they were one of the first bands that was mine. Where when I was younger, when you're younger, you listen to the music that your parents listen to because you
Hmm.
don't really have a choice. You don't really know anything else. So I remember listening to like Sledgehammer and like, I'd pick up on certain things on my own, but I didn't really know much about them. Like I would hear some Run DMC here and there, but like, oh, I really like Run DMC and the Fat Boys. That was a band that for some inexplicable reason, I think it was because they had that movie Disorderlies. And
Oh, dude, I still have a VHS copy of Crush Groove somewhere.
nice.
So yeah.
So like, so I was into the Fat Boys, but when I say I was into the Fat Boys, did I have any of their music? No. Did I have any Run DMC? No, I didn't. But then I started hearing stuff, and I heard Aerosmith. I was like, oh man, Aerosmith's really cool. I like Aerosmith, but I heard that from my dad. Meatloaf. Oh, I love Meatloaf. Yeah, I heard that from my dad. They were one of the first bands that were mine, that I picked, that I went and bought their album and listened to their music. And again, that opened me up even more to Rancid, Goldfinger, Real Big Fish, the Boss Tones, Op Ivy. Jesus Christ, Op Ivy's awesome. And I don't know if I said Rancid already, but I'm going to say them again because they're that damn good. And Out Come the Wolves is one of my favorite albums of all time. Dude Ranch, which is what Damn It was off of. One of my favorite albums of all time. There's all these formative bands, these formative albums for my musical taste. But I went from like my parents' stuff and like hanging out in the metal pocket with like Metallica and stuff like that to, wow, I really like this other kind of music. And then from that led to Weezer, led to Foo Fighters, led to like a multitude of other bands, Lagwagon. I told you in the text, once I found out about like where Rancid came from, where Dropkick came from, where Op Ivy came from, Blink 182, anything I could get with Warped Tour on it, or like an Epitaph fucking sampler, or any of those, Hellcat Records sampler,
Right.
anything like that I could get, I was snatching up. There was one I remember, it was it was called Short Music for Short People. And I think it was like 99 songs on one disc. And it was It was the most insane thing, but I learned of different bands that I liked from that.
Yeah, and that was typical the especially that genre, the punk ska, whatever.
Right.
That because they would throw a lot of short songs together. The Descendants were known for it, and in fact, the other Descendants band, All, was also known for it. They would throw together these like 15-second songs, and it was very very common for that. So yeah, of course you're going to pick up something,
And that's actually where I learned about the Vandals, too.
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, you've heard Hitler Bad, Vandals Good, right?
Yes.
What a great fucking album. First of all, the title is perfect. Chef's Kiss. But the album itself is fucking fantastic too. And would I probably, yes, I would have eventually heard of the Vandals at some point, some way, shape, or form. But that's what reminds them. Me first in the Gimme Gimmes, which led me into NoFX.
Right,
Like
right.
all of these bands were on that album.
And a lot of those things I got into a bit of NoFX, and me first was on with the Punkorama
Yes.
things through Epitaph. So if it wasn't for those, I wouldn't have my exposure to that, because it was the same deal. Like Rancid, Pennywise were probably the big two off Epitaph for me. Bad Religion being a close third, and then learning about, like, at some point, I took a real deep dive into Bad Religion, and like went back and found like the way early stuff, and then learned that they'd been recording music since like the early 80s.
Yeah.
And like some of the stuff was like almost new wave. It wasn't even punk. And it was like, what in the world is this? So once you start falling down these rabbit holes, you're like, what in the...
Well, and that's what's funny too, because I feel like, I don't remember if it was the Orange County soundtrack or if it was actually Good Charlotte, of all bands, that introduced me to Social Distortion. Because there's, on the Orange County soundtrack, there's the live version of Story of My Life. And if you listen to, there's a song on one of Good Charlotte's albums where he's singing about a girl, like his girlfriend or some girl he likes, and he says she likes Social Distortion. And so I was like, well, all right, let me fucking figure out who Social Distortion is. And that even opened my eyes even further, because I liked them so much more than I like Good Charlotte, which I still like Good Charlotte. I'm not shitting on Good Charlotte.
Right.
Have they made the best music ever in the past few? No, not really. But whatever. That's neither here nor there.
We could say that about a lot of bands, yeah.
Right, exactly. But they opened my eyes to Social Distortion. And Social Distortion is one of my favorite bands of all time now. And they've, again, another band that's been making music since fucking before we were born. But I've seen them in concert now, I think 5 times.
Right.
Like, it's funny how all these different bands kind of, in some way, shape, or form, unlock other bands for you. And it helps shape who you are musically. And it kind of gives you a more complete view of the musical landscape.
Right. And it's funny. So I could say the same thing too. It's like you going back to the random mix albums or whatever. I remember picking up like, a Buzzbin disc, MTV, right? And so that's what really exposed me to Cake and I think the Cardigans and some of these other like smaller groups, whatever, alternative music, right? So got into that quite a bit. But then like really thinking about the stuff that I was into, in this, to me, and it's hard to like, I really think about like the timeline. I almost think that it runs together. Like part of me really loved the alternative stuff. Part of me really loved the ska punk stuff, but I also love electronic music. Like I was like the first person that I knew of, anyone that I knew of, because I remember I was like, oh, I love this Daft Punk stuff. I loved it. Like I was the only one that was, and then of course, like years later, they go on to win Grammys and whatever.
Right.
And it just, but I'm still the same way now. It's like I've really fallen into a hole now with a lot of synth wave and stuff that's reminiscent of people trying to recreate 80s music. So
Yes.
it's a weird genre, but it's fun for me. I like it.
Yeah.
But now you're right though. Like it's the smaller, like going back in time, it's the smaller, like random albums, random people you talk to that get you into. It's like like I said, it's like a gateway. It's what gets you into the genre, gets what's into a band. Like Operation Ivy, I would have never got into the Op Ivy stuff if it was not for getting a copy of the Green Day Dookie album. Had I not gotten that, I would have never circled back to Operation Ivy, ever.
Right.
You know, and similarly with Rancid, like that's the thing with like once you discover a band, sometimes you're like, oh, I wonder what their other stuff was like prior to, because typically when you discover a band, it's always like well after they're established, and so you end up finding other stuff. And you had mentioned it too, like earlier Green Day, which that it was like to me like it's probably the first example that I could think of a band that it's like you find you got Green Day's latest record in your hand. In my case, it was Dookie, and I went backward until I found Operation Ivy, Rancid, like in that same.
Right. You can trace it. It's almost like an evolution chart.
Right.
And
It's
you
like
can follow it.
because you had Dookie at 94, you had Out Come the Wolves in 95, and there was some like weird like connection that went back to what was it, 87?
Right.
That album came out, so you had like a 6-7 year thing there. I think that's the first time that I can trace like, you know what, I'm into this that much that I care about what happened beforehand.
Right. No, and that's exactly what happened. So when I had gotten into Blink 182, obviously Dude Ranch was out. That was their major label debut. They had released one album, like really released one album, which was Cheshire Cat. And then they had this other album that was like a demo that is basically what got them the ability to make Cheshire Cat. And so that was Buddha. And that when I got Dude Ranch, since Damn It had hit it so big, they had actually sort of reprinting Cheshire Cat, and they actually made like a wide distribution of Buddha, but it was on Kung Fu Records instead of whatever. I think it was Filter Records was the original label, because it was which the funny thing is it was actually just Mark Hoppus's manager at the record store he worked at. He got a bunch of money together to release Buddha, and they didn't have a record company, so they were just like Filter Records, and just threw it out. And so I picked up those two. So, and there's a marked difference between what you get on Buddha and then what you get on Cheshire Cat, even though some of the songs are the same.
Right.
And then it changes even more. It gets more refined by the time you get to Dude Ranch. And then that's where you can really see, like, you can still see prototype of what Blink 182 will become on Cheshire Cat. Buddha, if you can listen to it, like I soaked it all up because it was just more Blink 182, and I just wanted to absorb it all. But listening to that and listening back at it on it now, I'm just, man, that's fucking bad. And then I can listen to Cheshire Cat all the way through, and then Dude Ranch, like we were saying, is I feel like almost I never will say that something is a perfect album. Dude Ranch is as close as you're going to get to a perfect Blink 182 album.
And you just said something too about having a release on a certain record label, or however that goes, or with albums anyway. That sometimes, and I'm not familiar with my Blink-182 history on this, but like sometimes you get like a case where it's like something's independent released, and then it's released again,
yes,
because it hits big, and it does have that difference. I noticed that with some different like experimental groups over the years, or just bands in general. where it's like they have an album that's hit, it's independent release, when it's like, oh, we kind of really like this, but we need to re-record it so the masses are gonna. So it's gonna basically it's gonna be professional sounding, much more so than we are.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but
To circle back to your Daft Punk, it's funny you mention them because I remember hearing some of the songs off of Discovery back in like freshman year of college. And it took me until like 20 or 2000, 2006, somewhere between 2006 and 2008 before I actually bought a copy of Discovery. No, it was 2005 or 2006 because I remember listening to it on the way to the Foo Fighters show. And it's just why I waited that long to buy that album. I kick myself because it's such a damn good album.
the funny thing for them was I remember watching MTV real late at night, and they had videos for Around the World and Defunk and whatever, and it was 96, 97 time frame. Let's say the album got released in 97. I was like, I've got to buy this. Like, I was so into it. And man, I was hooked. Like, and all these funny, like, oddball things came out, like, oh, Daft Punk is 8 guys from France and all this crap. And it's two guys. That's all it is. Yeah. Like, it was just like, it was screwy. But like, you'd watch the videos, and I think a reason why I fell in love with them so much early on was because the videos reminded me a lot of what the Beastie Boys were doing, because they were so off, goofy, like so unlike what everything else was going on for that time. Because you watch like the video for the Funk, go back and watch like Intergalactic, you'll find like some very oddball, like it's just strange,
Right.
which is what I loved. So like I love the strange mainstream, which whatever that maybe that explains me in general. I don't know.
I think that explains a lot. Much like Clarissa, it explains it all.
I'm trying.